Now, I know BMW was probably thinking, why would anyone ever take this oil pan off? It has to be what they were thinking, because let me show you what we got here. We can see there's like a bolt every half an inch. It's ridiculous. There's like 47 bolts on this oil pan. We've got that water pump stuff off. The next thing that I'm gonna do is take a closer look at the oil that was brought out of the machine to see if we've got any chunks of metal in it or anything like that. I'm probably going to also drop the oil pan. We're gonna take a look in the bottom of that. And maybe that's probably even more effective than actually looking at what's in the oil that we took out of the car. So I think my next step is gonna be drop the oil pan and take a look and see if we've got anything floating around in the bottom of the oil pan that shouldn't be, because that's going to tell us more about the health and condition of this engine. Maybe there's more than just the head gasket, who knows. So let's get to that. One of the things that's going to keep us from being able to drop the oil pan is the power steering pump right here. Let's take a look. All right, so we've got our oil pan right here, and we have a bracket on the oil pan for this power steering pump right here. So in order to get the power steering pump off, we'll have to obviously remove that bracket. Well, we're gonna do it from the top side. We're gonna take the alternator off first. So let's get to that. Okay, so we've got the alternator out, got our bolts replaced. Now I don't really wanna disconnect the power steering pump because we've got these lines connected to it, but you can see the oil pan is right here. Now, I know BMW was probably thinking, why would anyone ever take this oil pan off? It has to be what they were thinking, because let me show you what we got here. This whole side here, this bracket that holds all the accessories, the power steering and the alternator, well, those are all connected and placed over top of the valve cover, or over top of the oil pan. So when we look, we can see there's like a bolt every half an inch. It's ridiculous. There's like 47 bolts on this oil pan. And then if we look over here, that is the AC compressor, which God only knows if that even works. And then you've got a whole bunch of bolts all the way down that side too. I mean, you would think with this many bolts it wouldn't leak, but obviously that hasn't stopped it. So I'm probably going to have to take off this accessory bracket on this side right here, and I've already removed one bolt. I really didn't want to have to, because that means that this power steering is probably just going to be hanging there. But we'll cross that road when we get to it. We're going to remove these bolts and try to get this oil pan out of here today, come hell or high water. Alright, well, there's the two accessory bolts out. Let's move up to the top and get the 17 more that are up there. Alright, up top here, holding on this bracket here, which is what we have to remove. We've got a bolt here, bolt here, bolt here, and a bolt here. Probably can't see these two because all the hoses are in the way, but we'll cross that road when we get to it. Let's remove the two here and here on the front. Okay, so I got the bracket out that holds all the accessories, and I just have the power steering pump hanging here. And what I'm gonna do, I think, I'm just gonna put it up here on the battery tray for now. I mean, it's not shocking that it's actually leaking, but these hoses seem like they're pretty good. We're not kinking anything. So for now, at least nothing's gonna leak all over. And we have full access to everything in our oil pan, except for that weird piece over here that's by the air compressor, or the AC compressor, which we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I'm starting to realize why every video that I've seen of anyone doing any kind of major service on this M30 engine always had the engine out of the car. And that's because the sheer volume of things that you have to take off this car just to do something as simple as the valve cover, even the oil pan. I mean, there's like 40 bolts in the oil pan, and you have to take off pretty much every accessory just to get to it. But it even goes farther than that. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. So if we're looking in here, this is the motor mount right here. And this is the motor mount holder that holds it to the block. The oil pan bolts run all along up here, underneath, all the way down the length of the engine. So you can see that there's also this plate here, which is held on by the motor mount right here. This plate has to come off, and this plate has to come off, just to be able to get bolts in there, or just to be able to get a wrench in there to be able to remove the oil pan. So the one small benefit to this is obviously we're gonna have a lot more clean side of this engine to get in there and sand it all out, make it look pretty, and repaint it. But I really didn't think I would have to take the entire engine out just to get the oil pan off. I do have new motor mounts and all that kind of stuff, so I was gonna have to take these brackets off eventually anyways. I need to get in that oil pan to see if there's anything on the bottom end of this engine that needs fixing or replacing before I get the heads back. We certainly have a lot to clean up while the heads are out at the shop. I mean, we've got the water pump, and we've got the power steering pump, and we certainly have to clean up our AC compressor, but we also have all these brackets and everything else that can be cleaned up and looking fresh and brand new when they go back in the car. So we may as well use this time to take care of that, especially since it looks like it all has to come off the car anyways. So I'm going to jack up the oil pan a little bit. We're going to remove the engine mount and the bracket on this side, and by the time this goes back in, it's going to be perfectly clean, and it will have a new motor mount because these were pretty squishy for sure. So I guess it's time to get to it. Okay, so we're working to pull the block out, and there's a couple of problems here. One, I already undid the motor mounts over here, and that's being held up by this jack right here. So we've got the motor being held on by the jack, which is not good. So I put the hoist here. What I want to do is put the engine under the hoist weight so I can undo the motor mounts on the other side of the engine and hold the engine up with the hoist, move this jack so that I can actually nose down the car, because I'm pretty sure this hoist isn't going to go up high enough the way the car sits right now for me to pull the block out. So I've got to actually support the weight of the engine with the hoist, lower the front end of the car down using the jack, and then go ahead and disconnect the engine and pull it out after I get those other motor mounts off. So that's what we're working on here. It's hot out here, my hair's all poofy, but we do have the engine being supported by this. Of course, right now it's actually still supporting the transmission as well because that's still connected. What we're going to try to do is lower down the front end of the car so that this will clear when we go to take the engine out. So we're going to use this jack right here, and we're going to adjust the jack stands under there. So that's the plan. So essentially, we have one more bracket to remove. This bracket right here. And then we're ready to take that transmission off of there. And there's maybe 8-10 bolts, somewhere in there. Not too many. Now there's only one thing left to do, and that's take the transmission bolts out. And luckily, because the head is off, I got this one and this one already. There's 1, 2 that go there. There's one down here. There's one, you know, in this position on the other side, and then there's 2 underneath. And that's it. 1/4 of the way there. So let's get these. So we have all of our transmission bolts off. We have the transmission supported. There were 6 or 8 bolts. I had to grind one of them off. Wasn't very interesting to watch. Now, of course, the fun part is separating the transmission from the engine. You can see you've already got a little separation up here, but the bolt I had to grind off was actually right down in there. And well, that one might fight me. It's hard to say. It's off, but it has to still go through the hole in order to pull the engine out. So we're now going to try to separate the engine from the transmission, and I'll pick it up once we're done doing that. All right, so German engineering, you gotta love it. Let's take a look at how they have their starter here. So we've got one bolt here, and then we have one over here on the underside right here. And of course, when you look at this bolt, you can't get a wrench on it because it's too close on this side, it's too close on that side. You get this end on it, sort of. I don't think you can actually turn it. And the way that this is shaped, you can't get a ratchet on there because this is in the way. So I don't know. And I have the engine out and I'm having difficulty removing the starter. And so I can't imagine how you're supposed to remove this starter while the engine is in the car. But if you know something that I don't know, be sure to let me know in the comments for sure. Well, that certainly did escalate quickly, and I'm even more nervous at this point than I was in the last video. The entire engine is now out of the car. I've never done anything like that before, and believe it or not, it's a pretty scary thing. Now, I do know a lot more about this car now than I certainly did when I bought it, but I've never taken an entire engine apart and put it back together to figure out what's going on. And believe me when I tell you, things get worse before they get better. But if you're enjoying this journey and you want to see what happens next, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. And why not flip that thumbs up if you enjoy what we're doing here. Why do we do this on a car that's worth almost nothing? Well, it's definitely for the love of cars. So go out there and drive your car, and I'll see you in the next one.